Have you ever walked away from a conversation wishing you had said just one calm, precise line that stopped everything? I have seen how a single thoughtful response can quiet a room faster than anger ever could, not to dominate, but to reclaim your ground with clarity. Because sometimes the smartest thing you say is the sentence that ends the noise. Today we explore those rare responses that silence without aggression and protect your peace. Stay with me and listen closely. One of them may be exactly what you needed all along. As we step into this first chapter, imagine a moment you've lived more times than you'd like to admit. A room thickening with tension, a voice rising, not because it carries truth, but because it hopes volume alone can overpower you. Someone leaning forward, trying to stretch their shadow over the space between you. Their words get sharper, their breath gets faster, and the heat of their frustration presses against your chest like a heavy hand. In that moment, everything inside you wants to respond in kind, to match fire with fire, to stand your ground by raising your voice. But instead of reacting, imagine offering something colder, steadier, sharper, a calm that cuts through noise the way a clean blade slices through tangled rope. Imagine standing there, still as a pillar in a storm, and saying with quiet certainty, "I do not need to raise my voice to be right." There is a rare kind of power hidden inside that sentence, a power carved not from force, but from restraint. It is the kind of strength Marcus Aurelius whispered to himself when he wrote that the best answer to anger is silence, not the silence of weakness, not the silence of surrender, the silence of someone who knows they cannot be moved. When someone tries to drag you into their storm, they expect you to stumble, they expect noise, they expect reaction. But when you offer none of it, when your voice remains calm while theirs climbs higher, something unexpected happens. They suddenly find themselves shouting into a void, and nothing unsettles a loud person more than realizing they are the only one making noise. Now imagine a meeting, the kind where tension settles at the edges of every sentence. Someone interrupts you, talks over you, raises their tone just enough to test your threshold. Most people snap back because the world has taught them that matching fire with fire proves strength. But you take a slow breath, you lift your eyes, and, with a tone so even the entire room feels it, you say, "I do not need to raise my voice to be right." That one line is a turning point, a reset button. It shifts the balance instantly, because at that moment you are no longer reacting. You are leading. You are not competing. You are directing the tone of the room. Now imagine a different scene, a kitchen table, a disagreement with someone you care about. Voices climbing, emotions swelling, the kind of conversation where both of you feel the gravity pulling you toward a place neither wants to go. This is where the Stoics left us their greatest map. Epictetus warned that he who cannot control his tongue will soon be ruled by his emotions, not because emotions are wrong, but because they blur the truth. When you answer heat with calm, you aren't trying to dominate the other person. You are trying to preserve the dignity of the moment. You show, quietly, that clarity speaks louder than volume ever could. And you remind both of you that understanding is never found in shouting. From here, the shift becomes unmistakable. When you refuse to raise your voice, you are saying more than the words themselves. You're saying your reasoning stands on its own. You're saying your confidence doesn't require theatrics. You're saying your peace is your possession and you won't hand it away. A loud voice is often a shield covering a weak point. A calm one, by contrast, is the mark of someone who has already examined their thinking and found it solid. When you answer with composure, you're not withdrawing from the moment. You're elevating it. Advancing into the deeper lesson, consider what happens when someone expects you to lose control, but you don't. Someone shouts not to persuade, but to provoke. They want you off balance. They want you emotional. They want you pulled into the fog where clarity disappears. But when you stay grounded, the dynamic flips. Their aggression suddenly looks exaggerated, almost unnecessary. Their urgency loses its bite, and your steadiness becomes a mirror they can't escape from. Others notice it too. The room sees who is anchored and who is drifting, and respect always gravitates toward the anchored one. Now picture a street corner argument. Two strangers, one escalating, voice rising, gestures sharp. The other standing calm, answering with measured tone. Who do people instinctively trust? The calm one. Not because calmness is passive, but because calmness is controlled. In a world addicted to noise, serenity becomes intimidating. It reveals confidence. It exposes insecurity. It shows who is centered, and the one who is centered always holds the advantage. Let's return to the phrase itself. I do not need to raise my voice to be right. It is short. It is clean. It carries no hostility. It is a boundary disguised as a sentence. It's a reminder to yourself. Strength is not volume. Strength is clarity. Strength is presence. Strength is choosing composure when the moment begs you not to. Anyone can shout, but very few can stay unmoved. Here is where the Stoic path becomes visible. The Stoics never said you must win every argument. They said you must win yourself. And the moment your voice begins to climb, your intention shifts. You are no longer speaking to convey truth. You are speaking to satisfy emotion. That is the moment you lose. But when your tone remains level, measured, unshaken, you reveal mastery. You show that your mind, your most sacred territory, is steering your response, not the chaos around you. And that is a form of authority no volume can imitate. Closing this first part, let this truth settle deep. The one who remains composed becomes the one others quietly follow. Once you learn to silence noise without matching noise, to stay centered when the world around you tilts, you carry a form of power that can transform any interaction. And when that becomes your habit, you'll be ready for the next response, the one that doesn't just stop conflict, but exposes the truth hiding beneath it. As we step into the second chapter, imagine a moment carved with tension, a moment where someone's words cut not with volume, but with poison. A smirk, a sarcastic jab, a comment designed to pierce rather than argue. You feel it land, sharp and unfair, yet beneath that sting lives a choice that shapes the entire direction of the encounter. You could fire back. You could answer disrespect with disrespect. But instead, picture yourself standing still, breathing once, and holding up a simple, elegant mirror. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. What follows isn't silence anymore, but realization, the kind that forces both of you to rethink the direction of the moment. This is not retaliation. It is not surrender. It is reflection. A clean surface showing the other person exactly what they are revealing about themselves. And in that moment, something subtle happens. They hear their own voice, the edge in it, the bitterness shaped in their tone, and for the first time the blow bounces back toward them, not because you struck, but because you didn't. Here's where Stoic wisdom lights the path. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that the best revenge is to be nothing like the one who wrongs you. His words carry a force that time has not weakened. You can feel their truth when you choose restraint over reaction, clarity over aggression, dignity over impulse. When someone throws contempt your way and you refuse to swallow it, you expose a truth that cannot be argued with. Their words belong to them, not to you. And when you remind them of that, you reclaim your ground without lifting a single verbal weapon. Let's step into a scene you may have lived many times. A co-worker makes a clever insult in front of a group, expecting laughter to keep you small. A friend tosses out a mocking remark dressed as humor. A stranger belittles you just to feel taller. Most people answer these things with fire because the world constantly whispers that sharpness must be met with sharper steel. But you aren't most people. You steady yourself from within, letting presence speak before words do. And with a calm so controlled, it shakes them more than anger ever could, you say. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. Advancing deeper, think about what that sentence teaches without explaining. You're not playing their game. You're not competing for dominance. You are stepping out of the mud they hoped you'd kneel in. And by doing so, you change the entire script. People expect conflict. They expect escalation. They expect you to be dragged into the same emotional fog they're drowning in. But when your response is rooted in clarity, you break the rhythm. And when you break the rhythm, you seize the dynamic. Here's where the teaching of Epictetus becomes a guidepost. He said it is not what happens to you, but how you react that defines the moment. He lived this truth in the most unforgiving conditions, yet his composure became his crown. And when you use this phrase, you echo that same discipline. You show that your character is not for sale, not at risk, not shaped by the disrespect of others. Your voice remains steady because your value is steady. Your reaction stays calm because your dignity is anchored deeper than their insult can reach. Now picture a different scene. A family dinner, conversations layered with old wounds. Someone throws a familiar insult your way, one they know will sting. Instead of letting it slice into you, you let it slip past, and you answer with the same steady mirror. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. For a moment, they freeze, and those watching you, those who have seen you hurt before, feel the shift. You didn't bend, you didn't bow. You rose, not in volume, but in presence. From here, the message grows sharper. The world celebrates quick tongues and fast reactions, but the Stoics taught a different kind of strength. Seneca warned that speaking in anger is like shooting an arrow without aiming. It may fly fast, but it rarely hits anything worth hitting. The moment you let emotion take the lead, you hand over control of your actions. And every time you hand over control, you lose more than the argument. You lose direction, you lose clarity, you lose yourself. But when you answer with composure, you lead, you define the tone of the exchange, you set the standard. You make it clear that your dignity is not negotiable. Others feel it, even your critics feel it. And the one who attacked you must face a truth they did not prepare for. They must face themselves. At this stage, the lesson becomes undeniable. You do not silence someone by shouting over them. You silence them by showing who truly holds the calm, by showing who refuses to fall, by showing who remains unbroken. And when you speak in this way, with precision, with restraint, with the quiet authority the Stoics carried, you turn every confrontation into a revelation. You show them who they are. And more importantly, you show yourself who you've become. And once you master this, you are ready for a third response, one that doesn't just reflect disrespect, but dismantles it entirely. Entering the third chapter, imagine the air in a room turning dense, not because of heat, but because of the sharp edges in someone's tone. You try to speak, yet every word you form is sliced in half by an interruption. Their voice grows louder, their breaths grow shorter, and their need to win eclipses any possibility of understanding. You feel the familiar pull, that instinct to defend yourself, to push back, to meet force with force. But instead of being dragged into their storm, picture yourself lifting your head, grounding your breath, and saying with a calm that leaves no room for misinterpretation, "Let's talk when we can do it respectfully." Now imagine the silence that follows, the kind of silence that feels like a stone dropped into still water. You didn't shout, you didn't defend, you didn't beg for space, you created it. And in that space, the entire direction of the exchange shifts, because this is not a retreat, it is a declaration. A line drawn not in anger, but in self-respect. A reminder that conversations without respect are just noise, and you refuse to lend your voice to noise. From here, let the image sharpen. Someone stands before you with clenched words and an untamed tone, trying to impose their truth by suffocating yours. Their voice demands your participation, but you offer them something else entirely. A boundary, and boundaries, when spoken with clarity, carry a kind of power that even hostility cannot touch. It is the moment when you stop wrestling with someone who is not listening and instead choose to protect the dignity of your own voice. This is where Stoic wisdom steps in like an old friend, placing a steady hand on your shoulder. Epictetus wrote that you cannot control the actions of others, only the terms of your own acceptance. Those words become more than philosophy when someone refuses to speak to you with basic respect. They become a shield. You cannot control their tone, but you can control whether you allow your peace to be consumed by it. And by saying, "Let's talk when we can do it respectfully," you show that your peace is not something you're willing to sacrifice for an argument that has lost its meaning. Now, imagine a story played out in countless ways. A man sits across from a colleague who interrupts every sentence, determined to dominate the exchange. The man leans forward, ready to fight back, but then catches himself. He remembers who he is and who he refuses to become. He straightens, his voice softens, and he says, "Let's talk when we can do it respectfully." The colleague is stunned, not because the words are harsh, but because they force him to confront the mirror he didn't know he was standing in front of. He doesn't have a comeback. He has a choice: to rise to the standard you just set, or to fall silent under it. Advancing deeper into this moment, notice what happens around you when you choose this path. The room sees it. The people listening feel it. The tension collapses. You have taken control, not through dominance, but through discipline, and discipline always carries farther than volume. Respect is not something you demand. It is something you establish, and once you establish it, those who refuse to honor it quietly disqualify themselves from your attention. Here's where the lesson sharpens. When someone refuses to engage respectfully, they are not attacking your argument. They are revealing their own lack of mastery. Their tone speaks for them. Their interruptions speak for them. Their agitation speaks for them. And your response speaks for you. You're not lowering yourself. You're not stepping back. You're stepping above. There is strength in that kind of elevation. Quiet strength. The kind that doesn't need applause to be felt. Let's step into another image. A heated argument at a dinner table. Voices layered. Accusations thrown like pebbles meant to provoke. You feel your own voice rising, wanting to rush into the fight. But you stop. You exhale, and you say, "Let's talk," when we can do it respectfully. Those words extinguish the fire in the room like a gust of cold air, not because you silenced them, but because you chose not to join the chaos. Respect becomes the condition for conversation, and those who cannot meet it fall quiet. At this stage, the truth stands clearly. Whoever cannot speak with respect does not earn the right to speak to you. This is not arrogance, it is awareness. Conversations are bridges. If one person sets fire to the planks, the other has no obligation to walk forward. Your boundary is the water that keeps the flames from reaching you. And anyone who values the exchange will choose to rebuild instead of burn. This is where your standard becomes your strength. And once you learn to set boundaries with calm firmness, you are ready for the next response, one that exposes not just disrespect, but the intentions behind it. Entering the fourth chapter, imagine the exact moment when a conversation stops being a conversation and becomes a slow, quiet erosion of your peace. You feel it before you fully understand it. The tension in their eyes, the edge hidden in their tone, the way every sentence they throw carries just enough bitterness to unsettle you, and as the exchange continues, you sense something deeper than disagreement. You sense the futility of speaking to someone who has no intention of listening. It is here, right in this tightening space, that your strength is tested. Not by what you can say, but by what you can choose to no longer say. And that is the moment you claim your dignity with a single calm sentence. I prefer not to continue this conversation. Now imagine how liberating that feels when you allow those words to settle on your tongue before releasing them with quiet certainty. You watch their expression flicker, not in victory, not in defeat, but in confusion. Because people expect resistance. They expect you to fight back. They expect the argument to spiral into anger so they can drag you into their chaos and call it a discussion. But instead, you remove the battleground itself. It is like stepping back from a fire someone else is desperately trying to keep alive, and the flames shrink the moment you no longer feed them. From here, the image sharpens. You stand before someone whose words are sharpened not by truth, but by the desire to provoke. You feel the sting of each blow, but you also feel something else rising in you. Not rage, not helplessness, clarity. A clarity that whispers a wisdom the Stoics repeated throughout the centuries. You are never obligated to remain where your peace is disrespected. Marcus Aurelius captured this truth when he wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you will not feel harmed." And you feel the meaning of that line echo inside you as you look at them. Breathe with intention and calmly say, "I'd prefer not to continue this conversation." Here's where the shift becomes unmistakable. This phrase is not an escape. It is a boundary carved with the precision of someone who refuses to be dragged into emotional mud. You are not surrendering your ground. You are redefining it. You are making it clear that your time, your voice, and your dignity are not available for someone else to crush in the name of winning. You are locking a door that should never have been left open. And once that door closes, the storm outside can scream, but it cannot enter. Let's step into a scene many people know too well. An argument with someone who has mastered the art of provocation. Every sentence they throw is lined with accusation. Every pause is designed to pull you deeper into the emotional trap. You feel your patience wearing thin, like a rope pulled too tight. Your heartbeat accelerates, your chest warms, your jaw feels heavy. You know that one more verbal blow might push you across a line you cannot return from. And then, instead of breaking, you breathe. Your posture shifts first, then your words follow. calm, deliberate, immovable, not with anger, not with fear, with mastery. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation, and in that instant the attack ends, not because they have changed, but because you have. Advancing into the heart of this lesson, think of what this phrase teaches both you and them. It shows them that their tactics do not work on you. It shows them that your composure is not a weakness, but a shield. And it shows you that your peace is something you're willing to defend, even at the cost of stepping away. The Stoics never glorified endless endurance. They glorified wise boundaries. They valued clarity over chaos. And they believed that a person who cannot protect their inner world will lose themselves trying to fix the outer one. Here's where the deeper transformation occurs. When you choose not to continue, you reclaim control over what occupies your mind. You remind yourself that not every attack deserves a counterattack. Not every argument deserves your participation. Not every voice deserves an answer. Seneca wrote that the greatest victories are won through refusal rather than resistance. And you feel the weight of that truth as you watch the argument dissolve the moment you withdraw your energy from it. Your refusal is not passive, it is powerful. You are not denying the conversation, you are denying the chaos. From here, imagine how this scene looks to those watching. They expect tempers to rise. They expect words to spill like broken glass. They expect the worst human instincts to take over. But instead, they witness someone who knows their worth. Someone who knows when a door must be closed. Someone who understands that peace is not given, it is chosen. And that choice is often made in the simplest of phrases, spoken with the calm weight of a person who leads themselves before leading any situation. At this stage, the impact becomes lasting. When you walk away from a conversation that dishonors your dignity, you do not lose anything. You gain space, you gain quiet, you gain clarity. And the other person, whether they admit it or not, is forced to confront their own behavior, because whoever cannot speak to you with respect loses the privilege of speaking to you at all. That is not coldness. That is self-respect in its purest Stoic form. This is where your strength becomes unmistakable, and once you learn to walk away with dignity, you are ready for the final response, one that exposes not only disrespect, but the very intentions behind a person's words. Entering the 5th chapter, imagine the warmth of a familiar place, a living room, a kitchen table, a quiet cafe corner, the kind of space where you feel safe enough to be yourself. Yet, right there, in that very safety, a conversation begins to bend. Someone close to you is speaking with intensity, not out of hostility, but out of conviction. Their words aren't sharp, but they are heavy. Their tone isn't aggressive, but it presses against you like a weight you didn't ask to carry. And as you listen, you feel something shift. Not because you disagree, but because they are trying to lead your thoughts where you do not wish to go. They mean well, but they cross a line they cannot see. And this is the moment you steady your breath, lift your head gently, and say with clarity and kindness, "That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it." Now imagine the silence that follows. It is soft, not tense. It is a pause that does not cut, but reveals. The other person suddenly finds themselves in a space where they must confront a truth many avoid. Respect does not mean agreement, and disagreement does not mean disrespect. You are not attacking them. You are not resisting them. You are simply drawing a line that protects your inner world from being shaped by someone else's certainty. And in that boundary lies a rare strength. From here, the picture grows sharper. Think of how many arguments begin not with hostility, but with insistence. A friend who thinks they know what's best for your life. A family member convinced that their beliefs are universal truths. A colleague certain that their way is the only way. These are not enemies. These are people who care, sometimes too much. But care without boundaries becomes pressure. And pressure without permission becomes intrusion. You feel the weight of their expectations pressing against your judgment. Yet instead of arguing, instead of explaining, instead of bending, you give them a phrase that is both shield and bridge. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. Here's where Stoic wisdom guides the moment with steady hands. Seneca once wrote that the worst prison is to live chained to the opinions of others. His words strike with the force of truth, because you realize how easily a person can surrender their voice to avoid discomfort. How often people nod along to avoid tension. How quickly they abandon their own judgment to keep peace. But peace built on silence is not peace, it is submission. And submission slowly erodes identity. This phrase is your escape from that erosion. It is the key that unlocks your independence. Now imagine a story lived by countless people. A young man sits across from an older relative who insists he follow a certain path, a path shaped by tradition and fear rather than his own aspirations. The relative speaks passionately, believing their conviction is a gift. The young man feels the pressure, the expectation, the unspoken demand. But instead of defending himself in circles, instead of arguing about values that cannot be reconciled in a single conversation, he lifts his eyes and says calmly, "That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it." The room quiets. Not because he won, but because he stood. And standing with respect always disarms tension more effectively than standing with force. Advancing deeper into the heart of this response, consider the power of what it communicates without directly saying it. You are telling the other person that their beliefs do not threaten you. You are telling them that you hear them, that their voice matters, but that your own voice matters too. You are declaring that mutual respect does not require intellectual surrender. And most importantly, you are reminding yourself that your autonomy is not negotiable. A mind that thinks for itself is a mind that cannot be manipulated, even by those who love it. Here's where the message becomes even stronger. When you use this phrase repeatedly, you cultivate something many people lack: emotional independence. The kind of independence that does not panic when someone disagrees. The kind that is not shaken by differing perspectives. The kind that does not crumble under pressure. This is the independence the Stoics lived by. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while holding opinions that were deeply his own. Epictetus, born in chains, taught that inner freedom belongs only to those who refuse to be ruled by external expectations. And Seneca warned that a person who cannot think for themselves becomes a servant to every passing voice. Let's step into another image. Someone close to you insists that you follow a particular belief. They speak with passion, with certainty, perhaps even with fear disguised as concern. You listen because listening is an act of respect, but listening is not agreement, and as their words press harder, instead of pushing back or retreating, you meet them with gentleness and boundaries wrapped into one sentence. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. The effect is immediate. Pressure dissolves, perspective resets, and the other person realizes that while they may influence you, they do not own your mind. At this stage, the deeper truth beneath this phrase becomes clear. This is not about rejecting others. It is about refusing to abandon yourself. It is about honoring your own reasoning, your own experience, your own values, even when someone else believes theirs are superior. And when you hold this ground, something extraordinary happens. People begin to respect you more, not because you defeated their viewpoint, but because you defended your own without disrespect. From here, let the final message settle deeply. Agreement is not the currency of respect. Clarity is. And when you say, "That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it," you offer clarity wrapped in dignity. You hold your center. You honor theirs. And the conversation no longer tries to force unity by crushing individuality. It becomes an honest exchange between equals. This is where your voice becomes unmistakably your own. And once you master this final response, you no longer fear disagreement. You no longer shrink under pressure. You no longer surrender your judgment to keep harmony. For the Stoics taught one law that outlives empires. Nothing is more unbreakable than a mind that belongs fully to itself. You now carry 5 responses that do more than shield you. They strengthen the way you step into every conversation and the way you hold yourself when tension rises. Each one is a quiet reminder that true authority does not come from shouting or force, but from clarity carried with calm confidence. When spoken with presence, these phrases silence others not because you overpower them, but because you rise above the level where conflict tries to pull you. Respect cannot be demanded. It grows naturally from the steadiness you show and the boundaries you set without hostility. Take a moment to let each response settle in your mind. I do not need to raise my voice to be right. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. Let us talk when we can do it respectfully. I would prefer not to continue this conversation. That is your opinion, and I respect it, but I do not share it. They may seem simple, yet each one carries the weight of someone who chooses dignity over chaos, clarity over noise, and self-respect over impulse. These lines help you step away from battles that drain you and guide you back to the kind of composure that cannot be shaken easily. As you begin using them, you will notice subtle shifts around you. People will speak with more care. They will listen more than they interrupt. They will measure their tone because they sense your presence, not your aggression. You become someone who cannot be pulled into emotional traps or provoked without consent. Someone whose calm sets the tone for the room even before you say a word. And when others feel that steadiness, they adjust their own. Yet the most meaningful shift happens inside you. You begin to trust the strength in your silence. You recognize that your calm is not a passive state, but an active choice that protects your energy and sharpens your clarity. You start to feel how freeing it is to walk away from arguments that lead nowhere, to step back from noise that once consumed you, and to respond only when it aligns with your values. This is where inner growth begins, quietly, steadily, powerfully. If these insights have supported you, consider subscribing so you can keep building this form of inner stability. It is not about adding more noise to your life, but about surrounding yourself with reminders that strengthen your focus and bring you back to your center when the world becomes loud. Before you go, reflect on one simple question. Which phrase will you carry into your next conversation? Share it in the comments with only 2 words. My choice. Your response may be exactly what someone else needs to read today. As you move forward, keep this truth close. A calm presence can shift the atmosphere in any room. A steady voice can stop storms before they rise. Stay grounded, stay aware, and return for the next lesson. Your growth has already begun.